Okay, you've seen all the builds about Ultimate Hunter, Unkillable Warlock, and things like that. People are burning everything to the ground. Well, my style has always been to do something unique, so instead of just burning things, let's poison them. Okay, since the poison subclass is not out yet, we'll have to improvise a little bit and use some different stuff. In all honesty, this is probably the most difficult build I've tried to make in a while because it just took a little bit to be able to get it to work. But I did my best to make sure the build was fun to play with, so if you have any suggestions while you watch or after you finish watching the video, feel free to leave it in the comment section below and I'm very open to that. Moving on, I decided to use a few unorthodox things for this build, so try to pay attention because it's kind of a lot. For exotics, you probably have some guesses on what we'll be using here. For the armor, we'll use the necrotic grips. Now, a lot of people know this exotic poisons, but they don't know that the poison damage increases over time, and this also applies to the enemies that get poisoned from the enemy that dies to the poison. For the weapon, I had to choose between the thorn and the osteostrega. And what swayed me to the osteo was the catalyst, which states that poison final blows refund ammo to the magazine, which means this gun can go from 27 in the magazine to over 100 rounds. And the rounds also track the enemies you shoot at to make it easier for you to shoot them, especially with all the changes to airborne effectiveness and things like that. You could just shoot from the hip and the bullets are still going to track to the enemies that you're trying to kill. If you've tried out Warlock in Solar 3.0, you know we're gonna be in the air quite a fair bit. Maybe not as much as you may think, but we're still gonna need to be in the air a little bit. So let's go over the subclass now. Just like we did in my previous Warlock build, we'll use the Phoenix Dive. This way we stay mobile while we're healing, and if you need to heal, you just do the dive, which gives Cure, which is an instant burst of health, and you have restoration as well for health regen over time. But we don't get any rifts, which sucks because Bungie decided to just nuke the Warlock's abilities. Stasis was good, Void was good, so for Solar, they just made it trash. Not saying it's not usable, but there's a lot of it that's just a shadow of what it used to be. But at least we're able to do the Dino Snap, right? Well, speaking of snaps, for this build we're going to be using the Incinerator Snap as our melee choice, and the Healing Grenade as a backup healing option, which provides restoration for us as well. For the aspect, we're going to use Heat Rises, not for the ability to stay in the air for a long time, but because it has a key component that helps this build work. When you get kills while you're airborne, you get melee energy refunded to you, and it's a lot. It usually takes about 3 or 4 kills while you're airborne to fully recharge your melee ability. Also with Heat Rises, if you use your grenade, if you consume your grenade, and you do the Phoenix Dive while you're in the air, it also gives you restoration outside of just the regular cure that you get. And when you land on the ground, you spread burn to the nearby enemies as well. So there are benefits to Heat Rises that are available, but that's not what we're really going to focus on. We just want to be able to get our melee energy back as quickly as possible. For the other aspect, we're going to use Touch of Flame, which makes your grenades more effective. And for the Healing Grenade, this means better restoration and cure for you and your allies. So it changes your cure from regular cure to cure ×2, and same thing for the restoration. Next up, we've got Fragments. Now, because of the poison we're using, it takes away from the Scorch and Ignitions we will normally get from Solar 3.0. So all the choices here that we're going to choose for Fragments are not going to be things to be able to burn more, but instead we're going to just focus on being able to do more damage with our Osteo and also to heal effectively. The first one is going to be Ember of Torches. When you get charged melee hits, it makes you and your allies radiant, so you're able to do more damage with your weapons. Ember of Solace is to increase the duration of the radiant buff as well as your restoration that we spoke of earlier. So you're getting more duration to do more damage, and if you have restoration active, you're going to get more time from whatever buff you use to get the restoration active to begin with. Next up, we'll use Ember of Empyrean, which extends the duration of the radiant and restoration on ability or weapon kills. So this one's different because instead of it to just change the timing of what you already get, it allows you to extend the timer with each kill that you're able to get. So if you get into the synergy of the build and you're meleeing a lot and getting those solar ability kills, every time you get that melee kill, it extends the duration of restoration to 12 seconds again, and it does the same thing for radiant. The last aspect is going to be Ember of Searing, which says that defeating scorched targets grants melee energy, which could happen because we're not focusing much on the scorch because we're going to be poisoning things a lot. But we're going to use this because it gives us that plus 10 recovery to be able to get our Phoenix dive quicker and a little bit of healing whenever we don't have that restoration or cure active. So before we talk about the mods, let's talk about the execution of this build while we watch some of the gameplay. If you didn't know about this, the radiant damage buff stacks with everything and increases weapon damage by 25%. So that's where we start. We melee to increase the damage of the Osteo. Every time you melee, you single jump, so if the enemy dies, it counts as an airborne kill. So that's a little trick that I do. If you see me just bunny hopping on the screen, it's because I'm trying to make my kills count as airborne kills so I can get my melee back and reproc radiant. Now if you get your melee back, you just repeat the process, get radiant again and get kills until you get your melee so you can reproc radiant or you can get more melees and things like that. The goal here is to just spread as much poison as possible, either through your melees or through the Osteo. And it makes it a lot easier with the Osteo because not only does the Osteo do more damage due to radiant, at the same time you're spreading poison which overflows the magazine, so you pretty much don't need to stop shooting. Even when your melee gets kills and that poison spreads to other enemies and they die, you still keep getting that Osteo with almost 100 bullets each time. So let's run through the mods real quick. First, we got heavy handed. That's always important for melee builds to help with the melee regeneration on builds without instant melee recharge because it gives 50% of your melee back if you're charged with light. We also use high energy fire to increase the weapon damage even more while we're charged with light. So we have radiant and then we're going to use high energy fire on top of that to do even more damage. Speaking of charge with light though, to get charged with light we'll use elemental charge, which gives 2 charges when you pick up a matching elemental well. We'll also use Well of Ordnance to recharge our grenade. That way we have a safety blanket if we ever take too much damage, just throw it on the ground to heal ourselves. The last mod that makes all these wells for us will be Melee Well Maker. So all the melee kills that we get from our snap turns into elemental wells for us. So that's it for the build today, guys. If the poison subclass comes out in Lightfall, we'll have something that we could try out right away. If you have any suggestions on making this build better, or you have a build idea of your own that you want to share or you want me to try, or maybe you want me to improve, feel free to leave that in the comment section below, or come by the live stream on twitch.tv/Olufermi and we could discuss the builds further and have a good time there as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.